Right. Um, Guys, remember when I did a video on TikTok, but remember when I've mentioned and showed you guys I was reading The Duchess, The Untold Story that was written by Penny Junor. Um, I've got to admit, when I first read it, I was so naive and dumbfounded that I just believed every single thing in there. And also, I think what it is that I was really kind of obsessed, starting to get obsessed with Camilla. And I have to thank this beautiful lady, Dale, Tryon, Kanga. I'm wearing one of her skirts right now. And I have to thank her. She's an amazing fashion designer. It's very sad that the only documentary that is about her is called To Prince Charles as a Mistress, refers to her, labels her down to a mistress, and sexualizes her and pities her against Camilla and Diana. And it's very sad because look at the amazing what she's done is lovely. I love how she incorporated pockets in skirts and dresses, and I've got two dress well, I've got three dresses. The red one doesn't have kind of pockets and stylish belt. The two blue ones have pockets and stylish belt, but I'm wearing one. I've got off Vinted, and let me show you for guys from here. This is this skirt. This is not Kanga collection. Oops, sorry, this is not Kanga collection. This skirt is so Kanga collection, and what I love about the skirt is where the hell are my pockets? That they have pockets, and I'm just about finding where the pockets are. This is so easy when I take it off and find the pockets. And wait, let me see. It's very different, but I know that this skirt has pockets. And let me see. It has pockets, I know that. Pockets. It's but okay, don't bother about the pockets in the skirts, but just look at the fabric. Well, I can feel the fabric, but just look at the color design. I love this sort of green, like light pink and light green, just matches well. And she didn't have work experience as a fashion staff for the Australian Women's Weekly, then also kind of like had to relocate to London and as like a working holiday as a fashion agent for an American designer, and then kind of met her husband through that. But well, I've just got to do all that first. But never mind about the pockets. So I did another TikTok video of all the books I was reading at the beginning of March, end of February. Well, more like end of February. So I re-borrowed The Duchess, The Untold Story by Penny Junor and Hina Brown's The Palace Paper, because I wanted to go exactly on the page where Dale was on. By the way, I've already read the whole book of The Palace Papers and Penny Junor's The Duchess Untold Story. And I was also reading about Prince Charles, and Dale was mentioned because it mentioned how that biography on Prince Charles. I read Prince Charles, The Rebel Prince by Tom Bowell, but Dale wasn't mentioned there. Now the Prince Charles biography I read by Sally, what was it called? Anyway, Prince Charles biography, it did mention Philip Philip sent Charles to Australia at the age of 17, and to Timbertop, the wilderness branch, and where he kind of learned and a grammar school in Melbourne. Now Melbourne, Dale was born in Melbourne, Australia. He was with Checkers and they arrived in Australia together. In Timbertop, he did his physical challenges, and all this. I mean, there he wasn't treated like the Prince of Wales, Royal Highness. He was just treated as Charles. everyone referred to him as Charles or Charlie, like, just as he was a normal human being. He wasn't, the future king there. But he loved he did feel a little homesick. Um, and some student again in his group called him Pommy, which was the Australian slang for Englishman. If you're Australian, please comment down below if this is actually true. Pommy is like an Australian slang for Englishmen. And Timbertop is where he actually has achieved many accomplishments, and he's written a letter to home, and he has proved to be an admirable leader. He's learned us so many good values, and he learned that good values the Australians are, and then among them, around page 25 of Prince Charles' biography by Sally, I got it, Sally Bedell-Smith, has mentioned among them was a woman who became a confidant a year later. He met her at a school dance. Dale Harper, a gracious blonde daughter of a wealthy businessman. Now, again, Sally Bedell-Smith, like Penny Junor and Tina Brown, think he has named her Kanga. But if you type in Australian archives, you type into Trove, and it should come up with Trove, and then type in Kanga tryon, and it will give you some articles. And then one of the headlines that would say is Prince Charles calls me Kanga, press start. So scroll down where Dale specifically said in an interview to Lana Wells that Prince Charles calls me Kanga. It's my husband's nickname for me, and she affectionately called her husband Ant. So it's very sad, just because Lord Tryon was a private person, and Charles was the Prince of Wales, like the future king, a public figure, doesn't mean that Charles named her Kanga. It was actually her husband who named her Kanga, and Charles just called her Kanga. You should listen. Why don't we not listening to Dale properly? It's very sad that we're not listening to Dale. Dale herself in the Lana Wells interview mentioned, Prince Charles calls me Kanga. It's my husband's nickname for me, and everyone in England calls her Kanga. So it's very sad that all these biographers and journalists try to, write these things. When she named her boutique Kanga, it was actually from a nickname, and people just say, "Oh, let's do it." It's her nickname from the Prince of Wales. It's like, what are you guys doing? Let's do it properly. She herself mentioned in 1977 in a Lana Wells interview that Prince Charles calls her Kanga, which is her nickname from her husband. And I do believe Dale. But I know during the 1990s she was suffering mentally and physically, so she just said anything, and it's very it's very sad that people, especially those she trusted and confided in, were doing a documentary calling her Prince Charles or the mistress, reducing her down and pitting her against Camilla. It's just really sad, because she was a fashion designer, and I showed you, the skirt that I'm wearing. She incorporated pockets into skirts and dresses, has stylish belts. The colors are very vibrant, like a personality, and it's very sad. And one thing that when I reread actually The Duchess, The Untold Story by Penny Junor, again, it was kind of like a one page off. Well, there was another page, a few pages. Let me show you. Where did I have? I've written it down somewhere. No, honestly, I don't know. Because Penny Junor was writing about Camilla, she probably got more research done on Camilla, not Dale. But I felt like, again, Penny Junor, like the journalist, Dale's so-called friends, did a documentary, Prince Charles or the Mistress, in 2008, calling her mistress and pitting her against Camilla. This is exactly what Penny Junor did. If you read Penny Junor, The Duchess, The Untold Story, and you get to that chapter where she talks about Kanga, Dale, Tryon, It's just, on page 56 to 58, page 56, 58 is the chapter where she talks about Dale, and it says, one year Anthony had gone ahead to Iceland with a mutual friend, Timothy, later 5th Baron Talmadge. Dale and the prince flew separately in and over of the Queen's flight, and were so engrossed with each other in the private compartment where they had asked to be left undisturbed, that they have failed to notice the plane had landed at wig and red carpet and clinic reception awaited, complete with Icelandic military band. Kanga kept her affair a secret from no one and had an open line to Nigel Dempster, the Daily Mail famous gossip columnist who was fellow Australian. Now, Nigel Dempster was actually British, a British journalist and columnist for the Daily Mail. So this is where Penny Junor got mixed up. Dale is Australian. We know Dale is Australian. Nigel Dempster is a British journalist and columnist. He was never Australian. And this is again where, yes, Kanga did a mistake talking to the press, talking too much to the press about her royal connections. Now that is a mistake. And guess what it shows? It shows that Kanga is a human. We all humans do mistakes. No need to, I read a quote today on LinkedIn. I said, do so many good things, no one cares. You do one single mistake and people start to judge you. That quote I saw on LinkedIn today, I had to like that because it just switched on and it reminded me so much of Dale, because Dale did so many good things. She was always a fashionist. She always loved fashion. She did, worked as a fashion staff for Australian Women's Weekly, as a fashion agent for an American designer. She became a fashion designer around the 1980s, 1990s as well. And she, naming her, had two kind of businesses called Dale Tryon, Kanga Collection by Dale Tryon Collection and Kanga Collection. And her dresses, she made the most amazing dresses, blouses, skirts, and party dresses and hats and shoes. I love that. I'm such a huge fan. Don't mind my watch, not watch, my fitness tracker. It's kind of broken, so I have it around my neck. She did that, and she did so many contributions in the fashion industry. She also did, was also chairwoman for Sane. If you don't know what Sane is like Mind. It's a mental health charity that helps people, if you're on a waiting list, let's say you're waiting for a therapist, connected to a therapist for better help, or Minds Matters BME network, wherever, even private practice, like if you're waiting for a therapist and private practice is quite expensive, Sane in Mind will help. She was a chairwoman of Sane, and around December 1990 she hosted Kanga Diamond Ball. Also, Sane was actually a Sane luncheon in the Royal Lancaster Hotel, where she wore that beautiful gown, black heron and red underskirt. She was really, and she also was in a wheelchair. The Inspire Foundation, if you or someone you love or a friend suffers from spina bifida, the Inspire Foundation actually helps that. And I decided to get in contact with the Inspire Foundation, and of course Sane, because I worked in the mental health industry. I might not be a qualified therapist, and I'm quite moving on to, the fashion industry, and still using my knowledge of mental health for the fashion industry. So I'm getting into contact with Sane, but also saying in memory of Lady Dale Tryon Kanga. And then I'm also getting I've also got in contact with the Inspire Foundation. I'm still wanting to, get emails from them, because they're really interesting, and I found it really interesting to work with them. And I told them a story why I'm not related to Dale, but I have this I don't know, this connection I have with Dale, but it's kind of like she inspires me to get along with others, and she inspires me to keep going in life. And I know she kind of, people say she just wanted to die, but that is, they don't know Kanga, because I see Kanga as a person who didn't want to die, but she wanted to live. She wanted to live, and she just couldn't do it on her own. Um, it's very sad because I know her children and her ex-husband have actually wanting to help her and helped her as much as they can. It was, of course, mentally straining for not just for Dale but for her children and ex-husband too. So I'm quite showing, like, I want to try and show like at least sympathy for them, or actually I kind of empathize with Dale because Dale struggled from spinal bifida from a young age, and I from a young age suffered, like, with rheumatic pain. I was hospitalized most of the time. I am stabilized on this very strong medication I have to take once a week, beuatiful 50 milligram. So that's where I kind of got, like, where I can emphasize with Dale on that level, and also with like her mental health. Like I mentioned, I worked in the mental health industry. I studied counseling for 2 years, but only kind of got a certificate in higher education, but still kind of have that knowledge of mental health. And that's why I tend to, in counseling, you learn like about sympathy and empathy, and we learn to be more empathetic listeners as counselors, like therapists. And I think my practice through that, somehow I felt, I didn't know how I did with my clients, but somehow with Dale I feel more empathy, what she's been through, and I kind of understand like where her family went through as well. How people say, oh, her children left her family left her. I'm not like that. I can see that her husband, at least her husband, is not like Camilla's ex-husband who goes out with other women. I don't believe Tryon went out with other women. I think he truly did love his Australian jewel. And he did, like his daughter mentioned, he did care for her. It just got so much, as much as they cared for Dale and helped Dale, it was mentally straining for them. And it can be because now my mom as well, and my mom has like, what does my mom have? My mom struggles with her legs very deeply. She has, again, like me, she developed arthritis at the age in her 50s. I developed quite arthritis like from a young age, and I had therapy and was hospitalized. But she recently got diagnosed with arthritis and and she struggles a lot. And I think what I've realized with arthritis, this is where I'm now looking at doing my mobility swim every Wednesday and kind of looking at exercises to lose weight. I want to now lose weight and change of diet because I want to know what is good, what food is healthy and good for my bones. So of course milk is good. I'm gonna cut off cheese because cheese has calcium, but it has fat. I don't like cheese much, but I want to try milk. I can have for my calcium. I like fish. That will be for my iron, like tuna fish, like tuna. I like tuna and fish, so I can have that for my iron level, because Mama also has iron deficiency. I think that's why her legs got a little bit swollen, and I can see how mentally draining it is for me and my siblings. We are trying to care for our mom as well, and I'm trying to look at a different healthy balanced diet, and that's why I love cooking. That's why I also started the love for cooking as well. I like cooking my own thing. I will go to takeaways. They are very expensive, but not just expensive, and I can see that it's kind of unhealthy for me. And my friends say, oh yeah, but we go to this takeaway, it's actually healthy, but it's just not what I can cook for myself. Yes, I like to support other people's businesses, but sometimes I do like to stay at home and cook for myself because I started loving cooking. And like if you've seen that live, or if you've seen my cooking with Lynn videos, I love that. I'm still alive. What can I do? love life, do activities that if you don't be afraid to do activities. If you like to become a fashion designer, go ahead, work as a retail, go and talk to fashion designers, go note down, look at a fashion designer you admire. Of course, I cannot talk to the fashion designer I admire because sadly she's no longer with us. And I would have loved, I watched all of Dale's interviews, and most of her interviews, the journalists are always talking about, the letters. I was like, and good question. Dale was so sweet and humble in that 1990 Channel 9 Australia interview, saying she just doesn't want to talk about it. And as well, he asked her about grandchildren. Would you ever let your children, grandchildren write them? It's like, first of all, those letters are private and confidential. I've received letters from Camilla and it says private and confidential. And grandchildren, she wasn't even a grandmother back then, and she couldn't live to see her grandchildren. She couldn't see that her children are now also have created their own businesses, inspired by her. And the only interview that I like of Dale was was when she appeared on This Morning episode with Richard and Judy in 1994, where she talked about her Kanga fashion line. And of course, I now cannot miss a single episode of This Morning. Ever since lockdown, ever since 2019, I could not miss an episode of This Morning. Sometimes I did have to miss it and just had to go back on ITV to watch a few episodes so I didn't miss the important bits. But I started watching some of the older This Morning interviews, and I'm trying to still find Dale's, because the only interview I liked of Dale was when she appeared on This Morning in 1994, because this is where she could openly talk about her fashion line. And Richard and Judy, their lines is not just talking about her relationship with the Prince of Wales or the royal family. Their job, when people appear on This Morning, is about, like, Dale was a fashion designer. She talked about a fashion line. They asked her about how she came into the fashion industry. Like Christopher Wilson, he interviewed for her last interview in 1997. He talks about, asks her about, her views on Charles' relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles, and Dale again humbly replied, "It's personal life. It's personal, and it's not anyone's right to judge him." And I have checked this quote. I've written this quote down in a notebook because I so admire Dale's words. And that were those, even though back then she was struggling mentally and physically, those words were actually wise. I see them as wise words because it shows that she's not a judgmental person, not easy to judge. Yes, she and Camilla had a rivalry thing going on, but she didn't judge that. And actually, if I read a little bit of her story on Kanga My Story, she said, "With Camilla, I like to get on with my life and leave her to get on with hers." Now, that's not like being rude. All Kanga is saying, I want to get on with my life. She's a fashion designer. She wants to get on with her life. Leave her. It doesn't matter if, she wasn't there on Camilla's 50th birthday party. I mean, they weren't, like she mentioned, they weren't friends, so she didn't mind about not being invited to Camilla's 50th birthday party. And it's very unfair that Penny Juno has quite sexualized Dale by actually, writing down what one of Dale's friends in the fashion industry. If you guys have watched the 2008 documentary, we had a fashion journalist, Hilary Alexander, who probably is the one that helped Dale in the fashion industry promote her fashion line. And again, in the documentary, Hilary Alexander, the fashion journalist, she talks a little bit, she mentions she didn't really talk much about him when I was there. I was like, well, she didn't have to. You're a fashion journalist. Your job as a fashion journalist is to, interview her on her fashion line. So that's very disappointing that Richard and Judy, who are just on This Morning, interviewed her on her fashion line, and you're a fashion journalist who just, I know you helped to promote a fashion line, but it's none of your business to actually get involved in, documentary that claims her to be Prince Charles' other mistress, and I don't believe she was a mistress. I don't even think she would have cheated on her husband, because in the interview with Lana Wells, she said she talks openly about her marriage to Lord Tryon and how much in love she was back then with Lord Tryon, and you know, it's really sad what changed. I know her eldest daughter Zoe mentioned in the 1997 interview that it's sad that she has changed, because she's back in a later year, she wasn't really much in love with her husband anymore. And in a Lana Wells interview, she said to Lana Wells that she would never want to do anything to hurt her husband, so that means she wouldn't have become Charles' mistress or done anything or cheated on him. And Penny Junot, if you read Penny Junot, the Duchess Untold Story, you would be able to, you know, just see how she quite seemed to sexualize Dale, saying that a friend of Dale in the fashion industry who helped her promote her fashion line said she was also unbelievably naughty sexually. So I'm saying, you know, the other time I've read to you that Dale and the prince have asked to be left undisturbed and have failed to notice the plane landed. I have realized, like when she mentioned they were so engrossed with each other, engrossed means, you know, Dale was a comforting spirit. She probably comforted Charles, but, you know, in reality she probably comforted Charles. But for me, Penny Junot, I feel like she just sexualized Dale, and I felt like she just wanted to let the readers know that, no, Dale and the prince probably did something intimate. And I was like, nope, I don't think so. Even Dale said in her last interview it wasn't a passionate relationship. And it's not nice that they only interviewed her on kind of like her relationships and personal life. Like, just talk about a fashion line. Her the fashion line is so inspirational. And then again, in Penny Junot's The Duchess Untold Story, if you turn to page 68, it says everyone knew that Charles was sleeping with Dale and one or two others. And I was like, what the hell is she writing here? And she's, if you go on to read The Duchess Untold Story, turn to page 68. And I was rereading that line over and over again. I've written it down on here. And I was like, what did she mean with that? Again, she said everyone knew that Charles was sleeping with Dale. I mean, yes, and she's even written before page 68, saying that Dale kept her affair secret for no one. And it's true. I mean, that is Dale's mistake. And first of all, I'm not going to sit here and ruin Dale's reputation by saying Dale kept her affair. How do we know that Dale even had an affair with Charles? Like, I know Dale did a mistake of talking to the press, but I never saw her ever sleeping with Charles, or, you know, sleeping with the future king. I've never really saw her as, ever since I started reading more about these, going to the Australian archives and reading like these old articles where she participated in, especially when she was like in her like late 20s, early 30s, and still sweet and so in love with her husband. I kind of believe all those happy moments of Dale. I don't believe she was sleeping with Charles. I will refuse, when I post this video, I will refuse to put hashtag Prince Charles' other mistress, because I don't believe Dale was Prince Charles' other mistress. I don't believe she was sleeping with Charles. I don't even, you know what Penny Junot also have written? What a so-called friend of Dale, the so-called friend in the so-called friend of Dale in the fashion industry, has said that if she was nice, she was fantastic. If she was nasty, she was horrendous. And I thought about the words nasty and horrendous. Dale is anything but nasty and horrendous. She's not nasty. She's not a horrendous person. And she were alive, and I would strike up a conversation with her, she would be, greet me, she smile at me, she'd be kind, she's down to earth and humble and sweet. I feel really sorry, like, that she had to be put up through this. Why is there only one documentary that claims her to be Prince Charles or the Mistress? Like I mentioned, I will refuse to put hashtag Prince Charles or the Mistress. I will put hashtag Kanga, hashtag Kanga Collection, hashtag Lady Dale Tryon, anything. Her name is not Prince Charles or the Mistress. Her name is not Mistress. Her name is not Adulteress, or what other people like to call her. And I am a Dale apologist. I have to say I'm a Dale apologist, because I am. Within the coronation, when I saw Dale, I first thought, is she a real person? Is she not like Camilla's friend? Which was not true. She was not Camilla's friend. And then when I started learning more about Camilla, I felt really more like off with Dale and said, oh, she's, annoying. Oh, she's a gold digger. She's only after money. And I saw a comment yesterday that said she and Camilla were only after his money. I was like, no, that's not true. Because that was like yesterday or 2 days ago where I read that comment. I was like, I was already kind of like flattered, and not just flattered, but I was already kind of confident, I already kind of loved Dale, and still do love Dale. Now that I love Dale and admire her, I refuse to I cannot see her as a gold digger. And I digged all my old comments, all the old comments I did. I just saw, every time I saw an old comment of mine where I started writing such horrible things about Dale, I was like, delete, because, oh my god, I don't know what I've done, but let me tell you, I have a confession to make, that Dale actually saved me from becoming too obsessed with Camilla. Remember when I've actually deleted this video, and I hope I deleted this video. I should have deleted this video. I've kind of used the song by Paloma Faith, Only Love Can Hurt Like This, and I said the sad love of Camilla, and in there I kind of like again said something, I kind of showed more empathy towards Camilla or sympathy towards Camilla, but that left Dale out. But since learning more about Dale, I seem to kind of fell more kind of like in love and with Dale's work, and her, I just admire her so much, and her charitable causes. She is someone who I can look up to. Again, she was very good sport, and I wasn't exactly like Dale. One of her school friends says she was quite popular in school and had a large following. It's because, people would come into her and confide in her. Again, but when she needed someone to confide in, they weren't really there, or she had journalists she kind of confronted journalists who exploited her, called her Prince Charles the Mistress, or even, whilst watching the documentary, I came across like old articles that said Kanga has fallen out of window out of her jealous obsession, and I was like, is that how you treat her? She has been so kind to you, and you just go write articles about her, like her jealous obsession. And that's why I say that Kanga has saved me from becoming too obsessed with Camilla, because if I became too obsessed with Camilla, I could have done anything. I could have, harmed myself. I could have harmed the people around me. I could have harmed my family and friends. I could have become more depressed. I could have went down the same rabbit hole as Dale. It's kind of like she saved me from that. Not physically, but kind of like spiritually. So reading back the Tina Brown and Penny Junot's Tina Brown's Palace Paid and Penny Junot's The Duchess Untold Story, I do not believe for 1 second she slept with Prince Charles, and it's like they want to sexualize these women, and it's not nice. That they just keep sexualizing women and putting them against each other. Yeah, we women don't want to be pitied and compared against each other. We may have a competitive spirit, but competitive spirit is good for a job search. And also, what I've learned from Dale is even if you suffer from a chronic pain like spinal bifida or arthritis, you know, swimming is good. Oh, I love swimming. I love swimming. But I've got mobility swim this Wednesday, every Wednesday. So I always go pay as you go. Anyway, so I'm gonna have a shower before I go to swimming. And that is really good. I love swimming, even if it's like the mobility swim aqua stride that I do, kind of that. Dale is Australian, so she was more lucky. Actually, I live in Lancashire. I live in Lancashire, England. And somewhere what I've done, I've borrowed a book. You know when I borrowed all these travel books, and I started my vision board on Australia first because Australia is my favorite place to visit. I've also borrowed Lake District, and I've researched that Lake District is very closer. Somewhere like if I go to Preston, somewhere, you know, get off at Preston bus station and somewhere like take a stagecoach somewhere there, and have a look around at Lake District. And there were so many writers there. Oh, no, not William Blake. There were so many writers in Lake District. Also, one part of Lake District is where you can actually, something they would have done in Australia, you can actually, you know, there's a place where it's not a sports leisure center, you know, a swimming pool and a sports leisure center. It's actually an outdoor swimming area. It's not even an outdoor swimming pool. It's kind of like an outdoor swimming area. It's a lake. And that's what I love. You know, but careful at the crocodile. Oh, okay. I'm actually scaring people now that people will not go outside anymore and just want to be on their electronic devices. To be honest, I have to be on my laptop to write stories, but what I do if I can't write anymore and I need to declutter my brain is to go outside in nature, spend some time in nature, write poems to release myself, do some litter picking, like do something good for the community, litter picking, and just clean the environment, just declutter the environment, because if I declutter the environment, I'll be decluttering my mind. That's how I see it. And so Kanga has been quite just known a little bit in Sally Smith's novel of Prince Charles, but at least she wasn't really sexualized like Penny Junod did when she wrote The Duchess of the Story, or like Tina Brown's The Palace Papers. Well, she's only written that Camilla read her virulous feelings to me when she alluded to Peace Tatler and had run about Dale a couple of months before my visit. And then all the stuff about Lady Tryon being such a friend of Lady Diana, she has not with an arc look. So Camilla had an arc look, but that's because Camilla was Dale's rival. She was jealous of Dale, and it's kind of like Camilla was actually a popular socialite, and Dale was an Australian socialite coming from Australia. You see, like in high school where we have that rich popular girl, and then we have the new girl. Dale is kind of like the new girl coming in, and the popular girl looks at the new girl, and it kind of already senses that the new girl is a threat to her. And I mean, both of them were quite popular in school. And when they did meet, Camilla felt kind of threatened by Dale. But I'm not saying that Camilla pushed Dale. I do believe and take Dale's word that she said she was pushed, even though she wasn't feeling well. But I do believe Dale that she was pushed, because I think, why would Dale jump? And then Dale said she didn't jump, and she was pushed. But I don't blame Camilla, because Camilla was also kind of like a prisoner in her own home. So, and in that such case, I mean, why would Camilla, I've received letters from Camilla, and I don't see Camilla as, you know, murdering someone. She gets blamed for Diana's death, she gets blamed for Dale's death. Like, it's not fair on Camilla. And by the way, who did she trust the most? Who did Dale trust the most? the journalists, of course. And some of the journalists on the documentary seemed very sus. They kind of have that, you know, poker face. Made a really good poker face, dramatic, and, you know, kind of did this drama on the Prince Charles of the Mistress documentary in 2008. So it could be one of them. Because Dale did trust and confide in the journalist. But Diana never feared Dale like she did with Camilla, and, you know, it takes years of aristocratic grooming to know how to play the mistress game. Again, Tina Brown, like the other biographers and journalists, call Dale the mistress. Even Dale's children don't really see Dale as a mistress, and I don't see Dale as a mistress either. I don't really see Dale as a mistress, so yeah, I just feel like I don't want to compare Dale to Camilla or Diana, because Dale was a fashion designer, and all I want to see is why we're the interviews of asking Dale about a fashion line, you know, giving advice to young fashion designers, because let me tell you, from all the fashion designers I've researched, Dale's words and opinions matter to me the most, and I love Dale's words. Wise words. I would have loved to, you know, hear some really good inspirational quotes and words that she would give to young designers like myself, because I just wouldn't have needed that a lot. So this is my video on Kanga.